everyone. I'm Brianna from Boom Studios, and welcome to a very special panel exclusively for the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Kickstarter backers. I have the absolute honor of speaking with the first and second generation cast members of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the original teenagers with attitude. I am thrilled to be joined by Amy Jo Johnson, Kimberly the Pink Ranger, Karen Ashley, Aisha the Yellow Ranger, Walter Jones, Zach the Black Ranger, and last but certainly not least, we have Jason David Frank, who was Tommy the Green Ranger and the White Ranger. Oh my goodness. Unfortunately, David Yost, who played Billy the Blue Ranger, and Steve Cardenas, Rocky the Red Ranger, were unable to join us at this time, but fear not, Billy and Rocky fans. We have recorded with them separately and will share their portions at the end of this conversation. We've also gathered questions from fans out in Ranger Nation, which we'll be incorporating throughout the panel today, thanks to everyone who submitted questions. Okay, everybody, this is super exciting for me personally, because if you would have told, I'm going to age myself, I'm so sorry, but if you would have told 6-year-old me that I would eventually have the opportunity to hang out with the original Power Rangers, I would never have believed you. So thank you all so much for being here and for participating in this panel. So let's go back and start at the beginning. Can you describe the moment each of you found out you were cast for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers? Amy, why don't we start with you?
Sure. I was just going to say, you also aged us at the same time.
I'm so sorry.
No, but you guys,
Actually,
I was going to say, you guys all look pretty. Karen, you look pretty. Amy, Walter never ages. I was just about to say that. So
you
I
look
don't want to
pretty
understand.
good yourself too, G.
Absolutely.
What was the question of
the question is, can you remember and describe the moment that you found out you were cast for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers?
Okay, so yeah, so I had actually, as I was telling Erin yesterday, moved back home. I was out in LA for about 6 months, and then I just sort of had it. Nothing had happened, so I moved home. Right before I moved home, I met this acting coach. Whatever, he convinced me to come back. So I came back, and it was literally that week that I went in for the audition for Power Rangers. And I think we went through maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 rounds of auditions. Walter, you might remember, but
Yeah.
it was pretty intense. And I think that as they started weeding out the different groups, and it sort of started to become clear to us that we were sort of the front runners. I don't know if you remember that too, Walter. We would like all hang out, and I remember staying at David Yost's house, all of us, whatever apartment he had. Like we were really bonding already at the time. So I can't remember the exact phone call I got, but I do remember just the auditioning process took a couple weeks.
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness. Okay, so Walter, why don't you tell us about what it was like for you, since yours and Amy's experiences were so similar?
Yeah, no, well, we actually really did bond quite a bit, which I think showed up in our chemistry on camera. I think I recall I was up for a few other things. I was up for a touring show in Asia with George Lucas. I had gone and auditioned, and my buddy Danny Danny Wayne, who also was on the show eventually as a stunt guy. We booked the show together, so we were excited. I was like, well, I don't know, I might get the show. The Power Rangers, we had auditioned already, and I had to let George Lucas know if I was going to go or not. And I got the call that I had booked the show, and I was excited because one, it was the first TV show I'd ever done as a series regular, and then it was 40 episodes that was picked up for it. So that was like, oh man, I got a show and it's 40 episodes. Most people usually get 12, so that was very exciting. I remember that.
Oh, that's so cool. So the next person to join was Jason. So Jason, what was it like for you?
Walter, I was actually watching you on Zoom. This is all different for me, but you always hit. I always like following you on TikTok and stuff. But
you
anyway,
too, bro.
No, it's so good, man. I tell you. Anyway, I'm just watching as you talk because I don't really get to hear these experiences, although we do stuff, but it's Zoom, so you're looking good. So my audition, there's like a ton of rumors out there that I auditioned for the Red Ranger. It's not true. I actually found the paper that my mom has. I wish I had it, that said, I've now been hired as the Green Ranger on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So I didn't know really anything going on. I went in to an audition. I was pretty persistent with an agent. they said, cut my hair and all that stuff. And, and this is what I look like in 1992. So I went into my agent pretty much like this. And they said, cut my hair, take off my ponytails, and it's better to, you look like a teenager with an attitude, put it that way. Yeah, for real. So they didn't represent me. And I kept saying, I went in, I said, hey, I cut my hair. Like the next day I was persistent. And they said, sorry, man, we can't represent you. They kind of gave me the hand, and I stayed until I said, well, I don't know what to do, man. Like I cut my hair. So he like frantically went around and gave me a script that said Phantoms, and I still have it. And I read Walter. I don't know if you know this. I'll have to show you. Walter was what I read for on the script, because it said like Zach or something like that on it. And so when I got the script, I said, cool, this is Phantoms. I have no clue what it is. And they said, here, this is karate. It's a teenager. It's perfect for you. So I went to the audition. My audition was simple. I heard that they were already casted, all these guys. So I was added. So I didn't audition before. I didn't audition for the Red Ranger. Everyone was already casted except two people, from my understanding, the Green Ranger and the Yellow Ranger. And because the Yellow Ranger, I guess, bailed out from the pilot. So when I showed up, there wasn't a lot of guys. There was maybe like 6 or 7. And I looked at their karate uniforms and I saw their belts tied wrong. And I said, oh, this is perfect. I can't wait. All I got to do is go in there and say these things, like whatever, Zordon, Zach, few lines, and that was it. So I went in there, and all the other guys were, in the hallway trying to do, karate. And I was like, oh, just treat it like a tournament. And I did. I went in there and, I said, my name's Jason Frank, and no middle name at that time. I just said, my name's Jason Frank. And I did a karate kata, and they were just quiet, and they said, cool, thank you, you can leave now. And so I went and I left, and I said, oh man, that went terrible. And someone said, can you come back the next day? And I was like, well, maybe it's a good thing. So I went back, and this is no lie, it was me and like 10 girls. And I started thinking, oh my God, they changed their mind. Maybe now, I didn't know who was who. I didn't know what I was reading for. So I was thinking, maybe they're changing their mind. Maybe they want a girl now. It's obviously I'm dominated by women. And I'm like, really the only guy there, really, literally the only guy. And I went in, and you guys know Saban, they already put me to work before I was hired. I went in there, and they said, hey, you did a great job. Can you do us a big favor? And I said, sure. They said, can you go out there and pick someone, a few girls, and maybe teach karate? And I was like, I hope I got this job, because I'm sweating. I'm teaching. That's what I do for a living. So I didn't pick 2. I picked out Twee, and went in the hallway. And she had some, basic skills, Walter, so I just kind of like, we did the Kung Fu thing, because it was easy to kind of like do this. And
Right.
I went in there, and the other girl, I'm not too sure, an agent or someone, just told her to go in there and own up to it. I heard, I don't confirm, but I heard she like, jumped on a table or whatever. I was outside, so I don't know how her audition went. And then we got the call, and my mom actually has the fax paper that said I was hired. And I would visit set.
Who jumped on the table?
They said Twee. I heard like an agent or
so
something.
See Twee. I could so see Twee jumping on the table.
Me too.
Yeah.
And because I thought of The Crow. When she was in The Crow, she was on the table. And that was my favorite movie. That was after Power Rangers. But yeah, and we got out, and I literally went in, like 6 guys, did my thing, and showed up the next day for 1 person, 10 girls, and then I was hired. So they had to wait for Twee to start filming, because they already had this cast. I didn't know anyone. I was told I won't work till later, and I was like, oh, I want to work right now. So I'd visit the set here and there, and and just kind of waited around for filming until I showed up.
I just want to say something about Twee. So wish that she was here, obviously.
Me too.
She was one of the kookiest and most interesting people I've ever met in my life. She would come out of nowhere. Like, she would seem so poised and straight-laced, and then all of a sudden she would say something that we'd all just be like, what what did she just say? Like, she was just such an interesting person. She was so out of the box,
Yeah.
She was amazing. I could totally see her getting on the table and doing her thing, because she kind of, she was interesting in that way. Like she would do things that were you didn't expect her to do, and and you loved her because she was so charming that you sat back and watched. Well, what is she doing? Okay,
Yeah,
all right, Twee, we see you. That's awesome. You know, it's fun.
Totally.
you're right about.
I also, sorry,
Oh,
I
go
just
ahead.
want to say one last thing about Sweet. Sorry, and then I'll shut up. I remember, I just wanted to say that while we were doing the show, I was always like, oh, that was a strange choice, like acting wise and stuff. But going back and watching the show, honestly, guys, I think she was the best actor on there. Like she's really interesting to watch. Like her
Wow.
deliveries and stuff. I was really, and I find that through my career, and then I promise I'll shut up, is that sometimes when I'm on set and somebody's acting and I'm like, oh, that's the strangest choice. And then going back and watching later, it's actually sometimes the best choice. I don't
Yeah,
know if
yeah,
ever
She
had
sounds
this-
fearless, which is what you have
she
to
was.
be. Yeah. That's
Maybe
dope.
that's why I picked her. There was 10 girls. I don't know. I think she had charisma. She was very easy to teach. But anyway, that's my audition process. So when I audition, I know there's things like I auditioned for the Red Ranger. I know Dave did from what I understand, because I watch things and I'm like, where do people get this from? Like, so I have the original paper. And I remember I was hired and Walter, I remember me and you the first time in the command center, we were joking around, like doing some karate stuff. You got me in that full Nelson thing and we're playing around and I leaned on the command center. It just rolled. And I was like, oh God, this is like,
That's
what do we
right.
do? And
It's a
everything was
set.
just fake. And I remember standing there like looking at you guys, because you guys were, and Amy, I think you're an awesome actress as well. I'm not just saying that in Karen and Walter. So I was kind of the new guy, just, sitting back, watching, so, having anxiety to start. And then it was like coming into this weird franchise that, I had the green suit and not a lot of people had green. So I was like, okay, I'll own up to it, because that time green was really an unpopular color for, in '93. And I was in it, supposed
What
to just
about
come
the
and go.
Ninja
And
Turtles?
huh?
I said, what about the Ninja Turtles? Weren't they green?
Yeah, I didn't think about that though.
They turned into frogs.
Yeah, that's a good point. I should
It
have thought
wasn't
about
his
that.
personal preference, his color wheel. It wasn't in his color
I
wheel.
did like it. This whole time, I never thought of that. I like turtles. I grew up with it. Duh.
Yeah.
Anyway, good
I
good
like
thing.
turtles.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Jason. And honestly, all of you, thank you for sharing your thoughts on Twee. That was so beautiful. Thank you for
Yeah.
giving her that moment. And so speaking of the Yellow Ranger, I want to ask Karen Ashley, what was your audition experience like?
It was actually completely crazy because at the time, I think the show had been out for a year. And I mean, it was a hit. It was the biggest show in the world. And I literally had just graduated high school, probably 2 months prior to this audition. And I was already in the business. I was in a singing group before and I had been auditioning and all this stuff. But I mean, I hadn't seen the show, so I didn't know much about it. But when I went to the audition, like there was at least a couple thousand people in line
Wow.
waiting.
Oh
And
my.
this was in Dallas. Yeah, it was the craziest thing, and I literally thought for a second, like, I was like, "We're gonna be here all day." But that almost was the best thing about it because I didn't know anything about the show, and there was a guy that was, like, ahead of me, and he knew everything about Power Rangers. So we
That's
had our
good.
little monologue, and we knew that you had to, either dance or be a martial artist or be a gymnast, and so everybody was, like, kinda practicing while they waited, but I literally waited probably 2 or 3 hours just to get in the audition, and we had 30 seconds to impress the casting agent. And I mean, it was like one of those hardcore, like welcome to Hollywood auditions. Like she had a straight face and she was like, well, what are you going to do? And I was like, I'm going to dance. And she's like, okay, dance. And like no music, no anything. And like she literally broke whoever, if you were there and you were to be broken, you were broken in that moment. And I was like, okay. And so I just went for it. And I just remember thinking, this is crazy. But at the end of my little 30-second dance, and she goes, okay, do the monologue. And I did the monologue. And she said, can you come back this afternoon? And I was like, sure. And so I thought, oh my gosh, I've got a call back. I've made it. I come back and there's like 100 people. It's still,
You
Oh
know,
no.
massive. And so this time they had music, you could play your music. And so this time I actually got to audition and they taped us for the producers. And so I just thought, I'm just going to do it. And I did the best I could. And I remember I saw Johnny and I saw Steve. For some reason, I remembered them. And they taped us. And so then we didn't hear from them for probably like 5 days. And I just remember one morning they called me and it was like early because I was still asleep. And they called and my friend woke me up and I like literally like flew out of the bed and was like, hello. And they were like, we want you to fly to LA tomorrow and audition for the producers. Can you get on a flight? And I was like, absolutely. And we get to the airport and that 100 went down to like 15 people. But what was even crazier was at that moment we realized like everyone was from somewhere else. Like there was a guy from New York, a guy from Orlando, a guy from Texas, and me and Steve and Johnny were all from Dallas. And so we were like, they'd been searching nationwide. And so at this point I was like, man, at this point I had watched as much Power Rangers as I could. And I knew it was a big deal. And we thought we were joining the cast. We didn't realize that 3 people had left the show. And so we went in, we auditioned by ourselves, and then they put us in a group and we auditioned as a group. And then they put me, Johnny, and Steve together, which was kind of crazy. And so I actually got to see their audition, which was amazing. And we had 2 minutes and we all did these crazy, like we were flying around that room. And I knew at that moment, I was like, if we don't get this is ours to lose. And by that afternoon, we had auditioned probably like 4 or 5 times. And then they just brought us in and talked to us. But by that afternoon, they put everybody in a room and then they were like, you, and you got the part. And we're like, yeah, we're like screaming and crying. And then we heard people crying and we were like, and so the other people who were in the room didn't get the part.
Oh,
It was all bad. Like we literally, our whole mood changed and we were like, okay, we can't celebrate now, but let's celebrate later. But what was kind of cool about it was Dan Southworth was in that audition. It was kind of between him and Johnny. But it was a crazy experience. And they were like, tell your parents to FedEx your clothes. You're working on Monday. And it was like on a Friday. Yeah, it was literally that crazy. So it was a matter of, I always say my life changed in 4 days. I became a Power Ranger.
Wow. That all of these
It was
audition
fast.
stories are incredible. Oh my gosh. Okay. So next question comes from a young Power Ranger fan. Scott's 6-year-old daughter wants to know how much training was needed for all of the physicality on the show. So, Amy, I know you were a gymnast, and Jason and Walter, you already had backgrounds in martial arts. So, can y'all tell me what that was like incorporating those skills into the show? I'm going to start with Amy.
Yeah, so I was a gymnast growing up. I probably had stopped being a gymnast maybe for about 3 years. Anyway, I could still do all the tricks and stuff. And I honestly think looking back, that is what got me the part, was being a gymnast and going in there and being able to stand there and do a backflip. Because I don't know if any other, besides David, gymnast actually auditioned. I mean, I was so new to acting. I don't think it was I don't think my acting got me the part. But,
Yeah, me too with karate. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. So yeah, I was a gymnast. And then
Walter,
being on the show, just really quick, sorry. Just learning how to like fake the martial arts. We did like a lot of different training and stuff like that. When Jason joined, he was really helpful in giving us some tricks and tips. And I remember we used to like work out all the time. Remember they had us in that gym, like sweating and training for hours, more than we shot.
So Walter, what was it like incorporating your knowledge into the show?
Well, when I joined the show, and Zach's character obviously had hip hop keto, which was not a form of martial arts in particularly. It was something I had to create. When we got on the set, when we got the job, we all did train together. We worked. We had a couple of guys that would work with us, and we did basic punches and kicks and so forth and so on. But then when it came to filming, you couldn't just say, all right, Walter, do this kick and do this thing, because I had to add martial arts and dancing and gymnastics. So like Amy said, she had the gymnastic skills, but I also did flips myself. So I did like bat flips and not bat handsprings. I didn't have combinations, but I could throw one in every now and then. The back tuck was
really high.
front tuck. Yeah, and I can do a front tuck over people and over objects. So we trained a lot. I mean, we went back and forth with the stunt guys and stunt coordinator, and we would work off with a mini tramp and like jumping and doing flips onto mats and that kind of thing. And it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. It was one of the most enjoyable things to me was the training that we did for the martial arts, and then to actually put that into practice. I think the pilot that we did, all of us kind of sucked as martial arts. I mean, Austin St. John was more of a martial artist than I was at study when I was younger. Had a brown belt at Ishinru from like when I was 12 years old. So that was the martial arts I had and brought with me. But once I got on the show, I started working with all the stunt guys and Jason Frank and Jason and Austin St. John. And between those guys, they just upped my game. I mean, I remember one of the stunt guys going, "This is a tornado kick. And what you do is you jump off your left leg and you kick with that leg and you land on the same leg." And I was like, "Show me that." And he did it. He said, "I've been working on this kick for 2 years." And he did it. And I went, I tried it and I almost got it. And the next time I tried it, I got it. And he was like, "I hate you. You've been doing that for 2 years. You just pick it up." But I think as a dancer, the training that I had allowed me to see physicality and emulate it pretty quickly. So I thought it was a lot of fun, but we trained pretty hard.
All right. Jason, what was it like for you incorporating those skills?
Like Amy was saying, I was I'm still in karate. I mean, which is awesome. Like the older I get, the more degrees I got my 8th degree like 2 years ago, which is super cool. But yeah, when I started, I was a national rated competitor anyway. So I was like in the martial arts tournament, I wanted to be like famous. So I would train kids and they would get like national news and I'd be behind them, like Sensei Jason, that type of stuff. So I had schools at that time and Red Dragon schools. So when I auditioned, like Amy was saying, I treated it like a tournament. Like I just said these few lines and then, just and all the other actors that were there didn't cry, but I'm sure they were like, oh, because I would ask them like, show me some stuff and do things. And Walter, Amy and Karen, one of the things they don't do, because I've been in so many generations of Power Rangers, that they don't allow the actors to fight or do karate or anything. It's not necessary.
That was the best part of the show.
It's not necessary. They let the helmet heads do it. So out of costume fights don't happen. I remember I was on set and everyone's like, please, Super Mega for Ninja. In that one fight we did, they kind of allowed it, and there's some seasons, but our season was legit because when they would tell, and Walter, I go back to you. So as a martial artist, I've never done flips and stuff ever. Like I was straight fighter coming in and throwing straight punches, and the stuntman would be like, "Hey, cut, we need to throw a wider punch." And I'm like, "Yeah, but this is like how you punch." They know wider, like, oh, like off form with no rhythm, with that's something that's unpractical in real life. Okay, so it was really hard for me to do the fake. What Walter was saying is the stunt, karate of it. And when I got with Amy and Dave, and then seeing Walter, which Walter, you already know this, I'm a big fan of the hip hop keto. I know it's not in part. I've been in karate my whole entire life. My roots go deep to Funakoshi, Otsuka, and I think hip hop keto is super cool. So when I saw Walter doing these kicks and flipping, and I was like, he was a unique in his own way, in its own sense. He was never compared to anything. That's what I like. And then there's other karate guys that were compared. Then, I came in with the key eyes because the key eyes need to come from the bottom of your stomach. So when I would show up and I would hear like, key eye, I'd be like, oh, Lord, we're not supposed to do that in karate. But also I did not flip. So Dave and Amy would really teach me. And I would see Walter like bust these front flips. And I was like, okay, well, I have to up the game. So I just tried back handsprings. And then Walter, that one episode, that pumpkin rapper episode, I did like these 9 kicks in a row, and I would see Walter bust the front flip, and I would get like tips, and we did. I mean, Walter was like that, like, hey, show me a kick, okay, cool. So he had that natural talent. So for me as a martial artist coming into it, it was really helpful for gymnastics, like Dave and Amy, to kind of like, this is how you do a back tuck. And I was like, Walter, like maybe not the form, because Amy had beautiful form, and Dave would just do like, I would just be in awe, like, okay, now what does Tommy do after like Amy, toom, 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 toom? Because kids
flips
loved
were
it.
ridiculous. the cool thing about Mighty Morphin, I've always said that it's such a blessing to be a part of this series, is because I mean, it would come on every day. So there's hundreds of episodes, and they really took the time to like create the characters. And like every single one of us had an opportunity to bring that character to life. I remember we got on the show and it was like we had 20 episodes to shoot before we went to go shoot the movie. But this was our introduction to the show. They just threw us in there. Like we
It's
had no
hard work.
practices, we had no
Yeah, hard
nothing.
work.
I remember being on the set and they were like, "Oh, your fight scene's next. You've got 20 minutes. Figure it out." And I was like, and I wasn't a martial artist. I was a dancer. But luckily for me, you know, the stunt team was amazing. And they were like, "We're going to just shoot it in segments. So don't worry. You don't have to learn a 10-minute fight. Just learn this combination and then we'll shoot this combination." And so for me, it was easier than I thought to be able to jump in that quickly. But I credit them for, it was just one of those things where, it took about 10 episodes for you to really get comfortable and just kind of build a chemistry amongst each other. And so we were very lucky to have, to shoot really fast, but also to for me, I felt it was lucky that we were able to just get in there, get to know each other, start doing it, figure it out, and it was kind of good because I knew we were coming in and taking the place of like, three hugely talented characters. And so for me, it was like being so busy, I didn't have time to think about that. So it didn't allow me to get in my own way or get in my own head and go, "Oh my gosh, do they like what I'm doing?" Because you didn't have time to worry about it. And it
You
was just,
did
you just
great,
stayed in the
by the way.
excitement. Thank you.
You were a really
Thank
good
you.
Yellow Ranger. I
You
know that
guys
you
were
really
so
were.
welcoming.
You really are, and you really uphold the standards of the Yellow Ranger. And so, I mean, I know Twee's not here, but you're next in line and representing the legacy that was laid. The foundation was laid for this whole brand for 27,
Yeah.
28 years. And you're right. Pats on the back are the biggest compliments, the biggest thing you can do. And Amy, the reason why is just think how hard we work. Walter, remember when they would just tell us like, "Hey, front suicide," and we had no pads. We would just do it. We did our own stunts. They're not like
You
that.
guys were lucky to live through that first season.
Oh my goodness.
It's amazing we didn't have injuries because
No, I know.
we did.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, we
A
would
lot
work.
of
Remember,
stunts. Yeah.
a
There
lot
were
of stunts. And
Oh
we
my
go to
gosh.
the set and we work, and then we would rehearse and we start sweating. We get warm and we stretch, and then we'd
Yeah.
have a half hour, 45-minute break, get cold, and come back out. And it was
Yeah.
like, "All right, let's go. So we
Oh wow.
start shooting
Yalla,
again. And oh
yalla.
my god, yeah,
Yalla,
that was
Oh my
yalla.
crazy.
goodness. Karen, you're amazing. You already answered my question that was next, which was about your experience with martial arts or gymnastics. So
Zero
you
experience
love
martial artist until I got on
zero.
Power Rangers.
Oh my gosh. So the fact that you were able to do that, that's brilliant. I mean, all of you are so talented, like obviously, like this is why we're here. You're all amazing. My next question is for Amy and Walter. You two were with the show from the very beginning. Do you have any favorite memories from the first few episodes? I mean, the show was like made in a way that hadn't really been done before. So was it hard to imagine what the end result was going to be like?
Yeah,
Your
for
faces
sure.
tell it all. Like both of you.
We're like, yeah, I just remember even like doing the pilot, first of all, being so excited to actually be on a set and shooting something because it was literally my first job. So I think it was a lot of our first acting gigs. So just that was always, this sort of like reality checking, visceral sort of experience when you're on a set shooting and you're like, what's happening right now? There's cameras around and I don't know, we were up in like the mountains or something. So that I remember those moments. And then just not really knowing what the heck are we making? I mean, like I'm reading it on the page, but like, what is this show that we're doing? And then I just remember really quickly when it
I thought you would have
first
said
came
the other
out.
word.
Huh?
I thought you would have said the other S word. I was like, what is this show?
No, what the heck is that making? Anyway, I just remember going off of that, when the pilot came out and inviting all my friends over, I had like 20 people in the living room. And we put it on, and I was just so excited, and they all watched it, and then like it finished, and everyone was just kind of silent, and they were like, cool. Like, what is that? You
Real
know?
friends right there. Those are real friends.
My brother did the same thing, except I wasn't in the pilot. I used your all pilot because I didn't have it. So I was like, I got the Green Ranger. Let me show you. And he was just like, yeah, that's dumb. And I was like, what? Like, anyway, but yeah, my brother did the same reaction, but he was older. You know, it wasn't the kids. It was the older fan base that, you know, my brother was older. So he didn't
Yeah,
bond to it.
exactly. Like my
Yeah.
friends
Walter,
watching it at the time were in their 20s.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it was
Yeah.
cool.
Walter, what was
I,
it like for you?
you know what? It was like Amy said, it was the first television show I had done, and just being on set and showing up and having the experience of being in makeup and having them touch your face and everything else, and then going into your room and checking out which wardrobe you're going to choose. You know, we had sponsors, so we all of a sudden there were all these cool clothes that I got to wear and pick out. Oh, I don't like that shirt. I'm gonna wear this shirt today, and to have a say so was interesting. That was like, oh, okay, I'm one of the series regulars, and so I can really have a way of helping to mold what I want my character to do. That experience was amazing. And then yeah, same thing with Amy. When I showed the pilot to my family in Detroit, I went home and I showed them the pilot. And same thing, like 20 people in the room, all my cousins, all my friends, my family, we're all watching the show. This is my TV show. I'm gonna be doing it. And the pilot was a little odd because we morphed into dinosaurs and all this other things. And I think I said "What's up" like 50 times when I walked into the room. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? It was crazy, right? And then,
Totally
um,
natural.
right, right. And then the show goes off, and again, my family was like, stay at it. Something's gonna work for you. And I was like, oh, thank you. It was
Oh,
that kind of thing. But then the show came out. In the first week, it hit the #1 hit show in America. And all of a sudden, everybody was calling me on the phone. Hey, what's up, cuz? I saw you in the show. Everybody's super excited. And,
You're
we're on
everyone's
the
cousin.
TV guide. And, we're on the TV guide. I go to the market and there's a TV guide there and I'm on it. And I'm like, that's me. That was so wild, that experience. And then I think Amy, you probably agree with this. One of the most exciting things we got to do that helped us know how much the show really meant to people is we got to go to the hospital for Make-A-Wish Foundation, and we went in our costumes, our helmets, and everything else. And I remember them telling us the story about this kid who had been burned over 75% of their body, and they said, he wakes up in pain every day. He doesn't smile. He hasn't smiled in like 3 weeks, but he loves the Power Rangers. He watches it every day. You can't go in the room because he's got to stay sterile. But if you guys will just like pick your head in the window and then take off your helmet so he can see it's really you, that would be awesome. And we all looked in the window with our helmets, and he was like on the bed, and he looked over and he was like, and he started smiling. We took off the helmets, and his face just lit up. And I swear I wanted to cry in that moment because I was like, this this is what I want to do. This is how I want to inspire people. This is how I want to affect the world in a way that, he doesn't know me. He doesn't know who I am. But in my heart, I just want to make him smile. And we're succeeding in doing that. And that was amazing.
Oh, that's
I
so
Wow.
great,
remember the
Walter.
hospitals. I remember going to the hospitals.
Yeah.
I remember in
Yeah.
suit, and I remember with Amy too. That was hard, Walter. It was hard
Yeah.
because I'd go in
But
and
Yeah.
they'll give you a rundown of what the kid's dealing with, and I'm thinking no, and the nurse is like, yeah, and I'm like, it was a hard thing, but you're right, Walter. Making people smile that was amazing with those kids.
And I feel like, because you telling that story, I totally remember that. And remember being super affected by that.
Mhm.
And as you're telling that story, I'm like, the feeling that I get at the Comic Cons and meeting all these
Yes.
people and
Yes.
having them come up and, you know, telling their story of what the show did for them is the same feeling. And
Yeah,
it's just so great to have that now, because there was
Yeah.
like a 15-year period in between where, you know, it was sort of a disconnection from the fans and people who loved the show. And just in the last 5 years, for myself diving into the Comic Cons, that's the greatest blessing about those
Yeah.
Comic Cons, is
It is.
that
Yeah.
feeling.
They can
Yeah.
explain and express themselves because they're older now. They're like a
Yeah.
somebody. Being a kid, nobody listens to them. So
But
now
they're
we get to
5
hear the
years old when they
stories.
walk up to you. Isn't it
Yeah,
cool how they just become kids
yeah.
again? It's so cool.
But the stories of everyone, like, being abused, and I had a guy that said he was going to hang himself, like all this stuff that kids aren't, like, they're not being paid attention to because they're kids. So now they're able to express themselves, that people will actually listen. Because believe it or not, there's a lot of kids that talk about depression, and the number one thing is, what are you depressed about? You got nothing to be. Kids are depressed, and I deal with depression, and I know it. So when someone comes up and they're able to express it, they break down. And you guys know that everybody,
Yeah.
they break down
Oh yeah.
and tell you really how the show has changed them and affect them. And that's
Yep.
what, Amy, is why we have that feeling, is because we're feeling their feelings. It's not just like, I do have people, hey, it's so cool to meet you, but it's that, I call it the wow factor. Again, Karen, being a kid again, like, wow, what the dang, and I've seen
Yeah.
it, and it's just, so, and I see that with the older cast, is because, like, that love story, Amy, I hear all the time, had a crush on Amy, had a crush on Jason, is because we scarred the hearts of many people out there. It's the truth. It was the first love story that they really watched as a kid. It's the
Yeah.
truth. It's
I
it's
mean,
like they say, it was the first love story for them as a 5-year-old.
I absolutely shipped Tommy and Kimberly. I was just looking at that, watching it, going, oh my God, oh, they're so cute. This is amazing. So, oh, I'm definitely one of those people that was absolutely all about the
I
ship. I
love
was
it.
just, oh, it was so great. And also, I wanted to say thank you all for sharing those stories. Those are so beautiful, and those are really important things to talk about,
Yeah.
especially depression and mental health. So, thank you, Jason, for sharing that. It's so important. And I hate to pivot, but I have more questions, and I'm so sorry. But my next question is, well, it's a statement that leads into a question. So the show gained a lot of some new faces with, Tommy's addition in season 1, episode 17. And then we got the Stone Canyon Trio in season 2, episode 22. For anyone who doesn't know, the Stone Canyon is the neighboring town to Angel Grove. And during a martial arts competition, we're introduced to Rocky DeSantos, Adam Park, and Aisha Campbell for the first time. So, Jason, I want to know, what do you remember about your first day of filming? And Amy and Walter, what was it like to have a brand new team member?
I'll start. I remember walking in to set. We were in Culver City again. I remember seeing everyone was starting because they had to wait for Twee. So I wasn't in the episode, so I was very antsy. So I got a chance to walk around, see, like, David Yost, Billy's Bug, that garage set. Remember, Amy and Walter, you walk in, and to the left they had, like,
The
Billy's
rad
set, and then straight they had the command center. And I remember my first day, like, being nice. I remember, I'm a martial artist, so usually, like, my whole life I tell people, hey, do this, do that, do this, do that. And I remember the first guy said, hit your mark. And I went, okay. I hit my mark. People are like, because we're teens. So at that time it was like, do this, do that, be quiet, roll. And it was one of those things for me. So it was like, hit your mark, kind of hit your mark, be quiet type of thing. So until the actors got a little bit more power or whatever. But I remember coming in set, and I just remember that Walter, and I met him, he was charming. And I remember leaning on the command center. I remember that, like, leaning and just, like, falling. Remember, Walter? I'm like, dang. And I'm like, what are these on wheels for? They're like, because when you turn over a scene and we say, world, turn around, we take it and shift it. And then I start hitting buttons, and they were breaking. I was like, these are hot glued. It was one of those things for me. I didn't have any keys in my vehicle. I would always, like, just wonder. I had ADD, so I wanted to see everything. So it was, I'm the new guy, so it wasn't easy, but I also had a lot of support from the original cast. I was in and out of that show, in and out. And I just remember, okay, let's just do the best I can. But I remember seeing, like, bright lights, and the only way I can relate that is when I was doing that Q&A with Amy, and I came from, like, Amsterdam, and I started feeling like, oh God, like, she looked at me, she's like, you all right? I remember that feeling of just hitting the mark and seeing the bright lights and action, and the whole Tommy voice. So I would just lower my voice and then cut, and I was like, oh, hey, action. Kimberly, it's me. And so I had this real low voice that I went into this Tommy voice. And then, but I remember working with Walter, Austin, everybody, they made me feel welcoming. And I think just in between takes, you know, they were laughing and having a good time. So that like brought me there. And then Amy, I remember you would study your character really well. Like you would dive in to build a backstory. And see, I didn't do all that. So I kind of wrote Amy's clout. I was kind of like, yeah, we're actors, man. Like, you know, Amy studied right, we're actors. So I would use that clout and be like, this is serious stuff. Although I'd be like, just hit my mark and say my line. But Amy, much credit to you. You were always into that. And it's very important as an actor. Even the hardest thing people think is this cheesiness is not easy when you got to say like cheesy lines. I always say it's not easy being cheesy. It's not. It's hard. It really is for me. I mean, especially it was for my brother. My brother's a tough guy. He couldn't do it. He would be in Zio. You're my brother. Cut. And I'd be like, can you just say you're my brother like normal? So they would go into their acting voice. I kind of went into this Tommy voice and kind of got stuck there. But everyone made me feel welcomed. But it was just that bright light, and then someone saying, "Hit your mark." And I'm a black belt, so I'm used to like telling people, drop and give me 10. So I remember I came, hit my mark, and it was a whole new world. And Power Rangers changed my life because I needed structure as a teenager. I needed structure. That's why I needed it. I didn't realize until later this year that why. It's because I needed structure to change my life. So, you know, for me, Power Rangers changed my life when I hit that mark. I needed structure like everyone else. So it changed my life.
That's fantastic. Amy and Walter, what was it like having a new character on set?
I thought it was well, we didn't really know much about what was happening. Like they said that there's going to be a new Green Ranger, but we didn't know he was going to be permanent. We thought he was just going to be there to heighten the story, and he actually did. I mean, he came on and he blew it away. And like the whole green candle thing that happened, the story that element added so much to it. There was so much drama, and it was good. It was like, oh, this is intense. And he was an amazing martial artist. So you know, with the
Thank
jump
you.
kicks and and the whole thing, like he was very charismatic. So it was like that made me want to up my game too. I was like, all right, he's got some skills. All right, let me make sure my kicks are a little longer and straighter. Let me make sure I do more. So that was great because we were always kind of working off of each other, and it was great to have a new male energy to bounce off of, which was awesome. And he was funny. And like he said, he
Thank
was
you.
in the beginning he was a little awkward because he was new and he didn't know everything, and it was kind of cool to watch him grow. And that was cool. But no, I didn't know he was going to be permanent. And then he went from the Green Ranger to the White Ranger, and it was like, oh well, he's part of the team now. And he had a Dragon Zord, and he had all this cool stuff. It was like, man, I want a Dragon Zord. I want I want a flute. Give me a flute. You know,
Oh God.
I was like, can I get a trumpet or a saxophone or something?
You had cool stuff, dude. You had cool stuff. You had
Amy,
hip hop
It
keto,
was
man. I
cool.
love it. God, I
Amy, what
love
was
it.
it like for you having a new character on set?
Um, for me, trying to remember back then, I think new blood is always good. Having like, and it wasn't too far in that you came. For some reason, I have this one memory that really stands out, and it was the morning of the giant earthquake, and
Yeah.
and we
I
had to
remember.
get called into work. We still
Yeah.
had to go to work, and I
Yeah.
remember,
Wait, I'm sorry. Do you mean the 1994 Northridge earthquake?
yeah,
Yeah.
Gosh.
and I remember,
Yeah.
Jeez.
and yeah,
We had
anyway,
no electricity, I don't think.
yeah, let me finish. So I remember Twee was sleeping over, and I remember waking up to this crazy earthquake. I remember sitting in like a door frame with Twee praying. I kept going, "Dear Lord Jesus," and then I don't know what she was doing, but we were both doing our thing. And
You're
then,
like,
and then, and then we went and we lit a candle on the gas stove because the lights were out. That's the stupidest thing you can do in an earthquake. Anyway, and then we got a call that we needed to be at work because she was sleeping over because we had to be to work around like 8 o'clock or something, or maybe 6 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, this gets back to you, Jason, I promise. So we went to work. So we showed up to work, and for some reason, I remember you being already there, ready to go, ready to shoot. But was that one of your first days? Because I remember it was like still really new having you
I
there.
think it was because I remember looking at the suit. This is what you are. This is who you are. This is what you do. I remember walking past. I remember the earthquake. I remember that, and I was like, dang, they're hardcore. And I do want to say it was my first working or my first on-set visit. I don't remember.
It was, I know it was one of your first day, or it was the first time I ever saw you. I just
Yeah.
remember it was,
Maybe because we never went inside the building that day.
no,
They made us stay outside, and then we
Okay.
waited like 5 hours, and then they said, "We
Yeah.
can't go in the building and go home." Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, I think it might have been my
Damn
first day that I
them.
showed up and I couldn't work again. But yeah, I think so.
that was the first time I saw you. I just, that earthquake and seeing you for the first time are sort of ingrained together in my head.
oh
I
my
mean, you rocked the
goodness.
world, man. You rocked the world, bro.
You came in with a bang. It makes total sense.
Oh my
Thank
goodness.
God.
This blew my mind because like the 94 earthquake is like burned into my brain. So the fact that they made y'all come into work is just mind blowing to me.
But we didn't work. You're right, Walter.
they-
We didn't work. We sat
Right.
outside
But
for
they
5
brought us in.
hours.
They made us go though.
Yeah, they did.
Freeway
They
was
were trying to
broken.
make it
The
happen, it
freeway-
sounds like.
The
Well,
10 freeway
Karen.
had been concaved, and they
Yeah.
made us go there. We were like, "Are you sure you want us to come to work? The freeways are broken." They were like, "We need you to come in." And so we're supposed to go in at 8. I think I got there like noon because I was like, "I'm not going." And we went, and then we sat around all day, and then they told us to go home.
I
Oh
think
my
it was like I think I was coming to film inside that Greek candle or one of the episodes. I think I was coming because I know that day I was kind of let down again, like, oh, like coming into the earthquake, number one. Number two, seeing everybody not being able to work. It's my memory is bad, but I do think I was there to work because I wouldn't go visit if it was an earthquake. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure I was told to go there.
You
Oh
probably
my
supposed to
gosh.
work.
All
Yeah.
right. So Karen, I'm sorry to make you answer this question after that. What was your first day on set like?
Oh man, I just remember I remember we got our scripts and like I had to be there at like 5 in the morning. Like it was dark. It was dark outside. And I always said when we were on the show, we'd go in, it was dark, and we'd go home and it was dark. We were always there. But I just remember like they got us all dressed up and we were at the park, I think. And I just remember the three of them, Amy, David, and Jason walking like they kind of came on set later, like hours later. We'd been filming that morning, and they came on set, and we were just so nervous to meet them. And they were just the nicest. Like everybody was so nice, and they were super happy that we were there, and we all just kind of hit it off immediately. But it was really just like, hi, it was that nervous hi and stuff. But I just remember it was so much work. In my first episode, we were doing a triathlon, so we had to like swim in that dirty Castaic lake. We had to bike, we had to run. I was like, there was a snake on my lap. I was like, they are literally trying to kill us. Like, what is this show?
Welcome to Power Rangers.
They broke us in. I was like, they're trying to kill us. But yeah, I was so nervous to meet them, but they were they were nicer than, nice as can be. So
Oh my goodness.
How long
Yeah.
after did we go to Australia?
1 month. Like
Yeah,
we worked 6 days a week for like a month, shot 20 episodes, and we were gone. And I always say like I love doing the movie because that was honestly the moment
bonding.
we had an opportunity to like get to know each other because it was just rush, work. And when we got there, it was like hurry up and wait, and you would just wait and wait all day just to, get to the scene for them to light the scene. And we honestly, for the first time, were able to, kind of form a friendship and just get to know each other. Yeah.
I feel like I don't even remember those first days of you guys being on set. I think it was all such a commotion of how
Whirlwind.
there was a commotion of the baton being passed over for the new people coming in. You three. And so I have no recollection except for when we were in Australia. And then those 6 months basically.
Yeah.
I was surprised. I saw commercials everywhere for your guys' audition, and mine was so easy. I saw try out Power Rangers. I think it was more of a marketing thing with Saban because we were everywhere. And I was so impressed when I saw you. I was like, where y'all from? And you said Texas. I was like, all three of you guys? And I was like, what did they look for worldwide? Like, Why were they
No.
even going to New York? And it was so odd. And so that they're like,
Yeah.
I'm from Texas, I'm from Texas, I'm from Texas, and here I'm stuck in Texas.
I
It's like
think it's totally a
mind-blowing.
fluke. That was like totally a fluke because like literally everyone
Crazy.
else was from Atlanta, from
Yeah.
Orlando, New York. Like everybody was from everywhere. A couple people were
Yeah.
from LA too. But it was just a fluke that the three of us got it. Like,
That was crazy.
yeah.
That was crazy.
So
It shows
good.
the
Oh.
Texas talent over here. I'm stuck in
You
Texas.
know?
Ah.
All right. So we have a question from Kyle out in Ranger Nation next. Do any of you have keepsakes from the show that you're excited that you got to keep, or maybe something that you smuggled off set?
I have a Dragon Dagger, the original one.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, that was a good one.
It's because Mark Richardson sold it to like the Universal Studios, and Saban found out, and they were selling it for $1,000, and Mark had to get it back to buy it from that shop in Universal Studios on the City Walk. And so he bought it back before Saban, and then I got it. That's true.
Oh, that's awesome.
True story.
Wow.
Does anybody else have anything?
I have my original coin from the movie.
You have your coin from the movie?
suit?
Yeah, from the suit. I have
Yeah,
that.
that's cool.
I've
I got a boot.
I've got this. And
Yep, that's
this.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yay.
All new toys for you guys. All new toys coming out with all a bunch of new stuff left and right with the MMPR stuff. That's true. That's cool.
I got
ours were
I have
cheap.
the skateboard. Oh, sorry.
Remember how Walter, and Amy, how cheap how cheap our morphers were? They were like toy ones. We run out and they go, let's go get more. They're like the toys. Like they were cheap. Mine was spray painted gold, and I still got that with the Velcro coin. I still have mine.
Really?
That I lost, but I got it.
I have a communicator that Mark Props gave me, and I also have the skateboard from the original pilot. So the original pilot, I walked.
God, really? That's dope, dude.
Yeah,
you gotta get everyone to sign that.
Forever.
speak. Yeah, I have. I came in on a skateboard. I skateboarded on a counter. It was weird. It was like I was doing all this crazy stuff, but I have that skateboard from the pilot, and I also have I have a neon sign from Ernie's Juice Bar.
Dang. You can
Dang
skateboard?
it. You scored. I have nothing. No one told me we could take stuff.
Oh, you're not
I
supposed
should.
to be Karen. Nobody will tell you. You
I
can't
do not condone stealing, but I wish I would have known when it was like steal your stuff day. Like
It's
they literally scared us.
stuff.
They scared us and they were like, you'll lose your job if you take anything. And I was like, I don't want to be fired.
Amy, what do you have?
Oh, I have the coin. But do you guys remember when that guy I was dating stole the Blue Ranger suit? All the electricians, they put it on and then they got fired.
Yes.
What?
I remember that. Yes, I remember. Oh God.
That happened before we got there. That's why everything was under lock and key. Like they would like yank that stuff off of you the minute you got off a set.
I remember that.
Because they were like, it's worth millions of dollars.
It was the entire electric team, or is the Grips. It was the entire team.
I remember that. Just now I remember. I didn't think about it until you just told me right now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
He's smart. He knew what he was doing. It was
not so smart. They had to bring it back. They just did it as a joke. I think they were wearing it, running around.
Oh God.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's talk character development. So the last time we had Steve on a panel, he mentioned he got his character breakdown, and it mentioned that Rocky was the eldest in a large family, but it never got used in the show. And then our writer for the comics, Ryan Parrott, I know, the pretty kitty, the writer for the comics, Ryan Parrott, heard
Catherine,
this.
she's come to visit.
Yes, a cat. She's like, hey.
See, you can never be on camera with children or animals because everyone will just go right to the animals.
I lost my total train of thought. Sorry.
So Ryan Parrott, the writer for the MMPR comics, heard this and thought it was so cool that he wanted to add it into his writing. So do any of you remember any interesting pieces of trivia from either your character breakdown, or did you do any breakdowns on your own to help inform your acting?
You know what I found the other day? I should have pulled it out. Was a journal from that time. I used to journal all the time. I have like 100 journals downstairs. And I found a journal from that whole time of the auditioning process to getting the character to how I felt about getting the show, to my character breakdown and the development of it. in my journal. Yeah. So I think I did like a lot of journaling on who Kimberly was. And now I read that back now and, you know, I think I have
That's
my
what I
last
remember
name
you
as
writing, Amy. I remember you building this. I remember one time you were in your room and I asked you, I specifically remember, and you're like, I'm building my character. And I was like, yeah, me too, or whatever. And I was like, what was you doing? I remember that because I remember you were in there. You probably don't remember. You know how things stick in your head. I remember closing the door going, God, I didn't do anything like that. Like, am I supposed to? I didn't, but you were. That's why you're such a great actress, and you're doing what you're doing now, producing, direct. Anyway, I remember that. So maybe it was some of the journals that you wrote on set or something. I don't know. Well, that's crazy.
yeah, but like it was a different character than it had. I mean, my last name was Phillips, and like I had this whole backstory that I should have given to the writers. But
You
anyway,
did. I
I
remember.
think they did a fine job.
Yeah. I remember that.
Did anybody
I
else
think
create any backstory?
I had a backstory. Well, I mean, it was actually Zach was very similar to my character. I mean, I grew up in a single family household, so I was the man of the house since I was 4, and and I seen abuses in my family between men and women and so forth and so on. And so I was very protective over women, and I think a lot of times the writers would see us on set and see us how we would react to one another, and they would add that to the story. Like the characters started developing on based on how we were acting around each other, and so I was protective of women. So like I remember in a script, if the bullies were going to attack Amy or Kimberly and Trini, Zach would always step up, and they'd be like, "No, we got this, Zach," and I'd be like, "All right." And I sit back and watch them do their thing. And it was like, but I think that protectiveness was um, part of like some of the things that I brought to the story as well. So that background from my own personal life. I mean, as an actor, you learn to bring things from your personal life to a character to make it more real to you. So
Yeah.
that was some of the things I thought. And then what the writers wrote was they made me very creative. I did everything. I walked on stilts. I was a surfer. I did juggling, and magic, and all kinds of stuff. I was a surfer. We had an episode where I'm in the school on a surfboard talking about cruising in the tube, and I had never been on a surfboard, but it was like, I love that they did that with my character because he was kind of he was a master of many things. So I love that about Zach.
That's amazing. Karen, what did you come up with, or what were you given about Aisha?
No, I think in the beginning they didn't know what to do with her, only because we were just one day we weren't, one day someone else was there, and one day we were there. Like it was like it happened really fast that we kind of got on the show and they auditioned us. And I remember that first week they had her written very stereotypical. And I remember, Jason, you were very supportive. You were like, yeah, she wouldn't say that. Like it was like, I kind of had support. And I remember having a talk with him, and he said, we hired you to be you. We don't want you to be Twee. We don't want you to be Kimberly. We don't want you to be anybody but Karen. So just do that. Do what you did when you came in there. And at that moment, I was like, okay, cool. And it kind of just gave me that confidence to, I was literally in high school 2 months prior to being on this set. So being a high school student was kind of something I knew very well. And I was able to make her sassy and make her strong and just make her what I felt, my culture needed to identify with. So I was very, I don't know because I don't know that I would be that brave. Usually you go on a set, you just do you do what you're told, you are
Yeah,
there
but
to
you
do
had
the
an
job.
opinion. You had an
Yeah.
opinion, and people listen, and you developed your character, which is good because most people
Yeah.
are, even in real life, afraid to stand up and say what they say. So I remember that because we were shooting, I'd be like, yeah, just do that. Like, because, like we got to move on here. Like, perfect. You listened and you did, and you had that, which was so good because you didn't have to do what, and I think, and I know that will lead into my question. I was me. Like this was who I was my whole entire life coming up as a martial artist. I grew my hair back. I did whatever I did. And I also, which I don't tell people, I put my middle name back. That's why everyone's, why you want to sound elegant? No, I got 3 first names, Jason, David, Frank. And everybody in school would be like, oh, and so I just came as Jason Frank. So I was like, I'm putting my middle name in there. Exactly what people would say three first names over and over and over again. You can imagine that. And I was kind of bullied at one point. I learned martial arts. It's not the story. I mean, Walter knows my story, but overall, I think Tommy was like that, kind of a loner. I got to develop Tommy, just the G-rated of Jason at that time. And you got material and you kind of brought your own. That's why it's so unique. That's why I always say first season so unique. And Walter, with your hip hop keto, I'm always intrigued by it. It is because I'm a professional martial artist, and you never had to compare. People have to compare to you now, like what hip
Yeah.
hop keto is. That's like, to me, it's like your own style, and I've always said that from day one. And then you had everyone else's own character that you can identify with. And even when you guys came, you guys, Karen, Johnny, and Steve, you were still able to create characters, and then it just became, this is what you do, and this is what it is. So, I don't know how it is for the people now, but for me, I just was able to be me. Like, we would cut, and Jason and Jason, Narvi, and Paul are the same. They're just G-rated on
Yeah.
Power Rangers. Like, cut, we would be like, hey, bro, they cut. They would do the same stuff. Action. And that's just how they were. So they were very entertaining to watch.
So amazing.
You know what I mean? So I think for
They're
me,
right.
I just kind of wanted to become myself, and just, like I said, my acting was the first thing. And then I remember the first serious acting thing. And Dave was like that too. Dave was really into that. I learned a lot about lighting. I learned to block people on purpose for jokes. I mean, I learned a lot, and I did learn how serious it was when I walked away from Amy Jo's door when she was writing the backstory. I remember. You might not remember, but I do, because I was like, yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna go do mine. And I was like, great. Like, Tommy, just, you know what I mean? So I was just able to be me, I guess, just to kind of just be myself on set and being transparent. Everybody was like that. We all have our days, but it was fun at that time.
It's really wonderful how much each of you is able to put yourself in your character as well. I love hearing all about this. This is so fantastic.